Let's dive right into this explainer and explore what is, honestly, the ultimate cosmic what if. Imagine looking out your window right now. Instead of seeing a world built by mammals and, us humans, you see a landscape completely dominated by the ancient titans of the Cretaceous. Now, I know it sounds like pure science fiction, but if we look closely at the evolutionary data, we can actually map out exactly what our planet would look like today. It's fascinating. So picture this. 66 million years ago, a literal mountain-sized asteroid, we're talking 10 to 12 kilometers wide, slams into the Yucatan Peninsula. The energy released was just absolutely beyond comprehension. It triggered global firestorms, massive tsunamis, and a brutal impact winter that completely ended the reign of the non-avian dinosaurs. But what if that giant rock simply flew past us? What if it just missed entirely? The difference between these two realities really boils down to the ultimate butterfly effect. In our actual timeline, that sudden global food web collapse emptied out all these massive ecological spaces, right? And tiny mammals eventually rushed in to take over. But in our alternate timeline, the ecosystem stays remarkably stable. Without that catastrophic hard reset, the dinosaurs hold on to their dominance, and mammals, well, we never inherit the Earth. Now, before we go any further, we absolutely have to shatter an outdated pop culture myth right here, right now. Dinosaurs were not these fading, dim-witted relics just waiting to die out. Their extinction wasn't because they were outdated or evolutionarily weak. Not at all. They were highly successful, incredibly diverse creatures. The problem was just that their specific giant ecosystems literally vanished overnight. The sheer evolutionary sophistication they already possessed is honestly incredible. Lineages like the dromaeosaurs, you probably know them as the famous raptors, and hadrosaurs, these were highly evolved, super dynamic animals. They were packed with incredible adaptations. We're talking complex dental batteries for efficient chewing, heavy armor, grasping forelimbs, and even surprisingly large brain-to-body ratios. They were relentlessly adapting right up until the exact moment that asteroid hit. So, here is the absolutely crucial point. If they survived, they wouldn't just stay the exact same static movie monsters we see in museums today, because evolution never stands still, right? 66 million extra years of evolution would transform them completely beyond recognition. Just think about it. Those same 66 million years transformed tiny, scurrying ancient mammals into today's massive whales, flying bats, and, well, us humans. Imagine how this builds into an entirely alternate tree of life. Those ancient dinosaurs would naturally fill the exact same ecological roles as the familiar animals we know today. Instead of lions out on the savanna, picture feathered descendants of tyrannosaurs acting as giant open-plain pursuit predators. And instead of rhinos or buffalo, you've got these massive, socially complex herds of ceratopsians grazing the landscape. The entire cast of characters changes completely, but the ecological jobs, they stay exactly the same. Which actually brings us to a pretty staggering realization. 0. That is exactly how many giant land mammals would likely exist today if dinosaurs had survived to hold on to all those major ecological niches. Think about it. An ecosystem really only has so much room for apex predators and mega herbivores. With dinosaurs securely locked into those top spots, there simply wouldn't be any ecological vacancies left for large mammals to fill. Now, mammals would definitely still exist. I mean, they'd already been living alongside dinosaurs for millions of years at that point. But they would hit this permanent evolutionary ceiling. They'd be forever trapped under the feet of giants, totally locked out of the race to the top of the food chain. They would remain small, nocturnal insectivores. Essentially, they'd just be the squeaky, furry snacks of the Cretaceous, trying their absolute best to stay out of the way. So that naturally leads us to what is probably the biggest, most personal question of all. In this wild, magnificently dinosaur-dominated Earth, would humans still exist? The scientifically grounded answer to that is, well, a stark no. And the reason is that the highly specific, super fragile chain of events that led from early mammals to primates, then to apes, and eventually to upright humans, it relies completely on mammals having the total freedom to diversify. If you remove that freedom, the entire chain leading to us is permanently broken. There'd be no cities, no agriculture, and absolutely zero human history. However, intelligence itself isn't an exclusively mammalian trait, and that brings us to this absolutely fascinating paleontological concept called the dinosauroid. It was first proposed back in the 1980s by a paleontologist named Dale Russell. It's essentially a thought experiment that asks, what if a relatively large-brained dinosaur, like a troodon, just kept evolving toward human-like intelligence? Now, scientists mostly agree they definitely wouldn't look like little green, scaly humans. But bird-like theropods already had relatively large brains and incredibly keen senses. So, over tens of millions of years, specific evolutionary pressures, things like complex social behavior, omnivorous diets, and having grasping forelimbs, could have easily produced cooperative, tool-using dinosaurs. I mean, we already see crow-level intellect in modern birds today, right? Just imagine scaling that kind of brainpower up to a pack-hunting theropod the size of a wolf. With these highly advanced, newly evolved dinosaurs roaming the planet, the structure of literally every modern habitat we know changes completely across every single continent. Let's take a quick look at exactly how this would play out across the globe today. Picture the African savanna right now, but it's filled not with wildebeests, but with tens of thousands of six-horned ceratopsians kicking up dust under the watchful eyes of giant feathered theropods. In the tropics, you'd have agile bird-like dinosaurs gliding through the canopy instead of monkeys. Up at the poles, swap out mammoths or polar bears for shaggy, thickly insulated, snow-adapted horned herbivores. And the oceans, there would be no whales. They'd be completely dominated by surviving marine reptiles. But here's a reality check. The world wouldn't actually be entirely filled with massive giants, because gigantism comes with massive energy costs. Over millions of years, the most successful and common dinosaurs would really be highly efficient, medium-sized pack hunters and grazers. We're talking animals roughly the size of a wolf, maybe up to a horse. So it wouldn't be some chaotic monster movie, it would be a perfectly balanced, functioning biosphere. Let's push this thought experiment just one step further, though. What if, against absolutely all odds, some human-like primate species actually did manage to evolve in the shadows of the forest canopy and eventually stepped out onto a dinosaur-ruled savanna? What would our existence even look like? Simply put, it would be a terrifying nightmare. Look, human evolution happened in a world full of dangerous predators, sure, but absolutely nothing on the scale of a highly intelligent pack-hunting theropod or a massive territorial mega-herbivore. Our civilization would be completely stunted. Just to survive, we would be forced to build massive elevated walls and dig deep defensive trenches just to protect our agriculture from being totally wiped out overnight by migrating herds. We'd basically be living under permanent siege from real-life dragons of flesh and blood. Just try to wrap your head around the sheer, unbroken scale of this alternate history. It's a continuous dinosaur dynasty stretching from their deep antiquity back in the Triassic, sailing right past that 66 million year asteroid mark, adapting to the spread of new grasslands 30 million years ago, all the way to a highly advanced modern dinosaur planet today. It's mind-blowing. It really forces us to completely redefine our place in the world. If that asteroid had just flown a little bit to the left, Earth would still belong to them, exactly as it had for 160 million years prior. It kind of makes you look out your window a bit differently today, doesn't it? It leaves us to wonder, in a world they naturally inherited and beautifully adapted to over 250 million years, would humans just be the fragile, unnatural invaders?